Yeah, because we obviously used to play Call of Duty, like we still do all the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I now only rock my own gun.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Of course you
You
do.
had to
Why not?
buy your own gun.
Yeah,
as
you have to
well.
buy the skin.
You probably had to buy the skin.
So
Yeah,
Is Friend just
that's-
merch at the moment?
no,
Well,
there's
Friend-
There's got to be more than that.
online store. Yeah. So
Yeah, see, this is a perfect point. So what you just brought up there is a perfect example of what we would need to do better to portray what Friend is. So
Mm.
I would want you to know what Friend is without having to be like, is Friend merchandise, is Friend an agency, is Friend a studio, all these kind of things.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that I'm working on at the moment, is trying to like,
Yeah.
what does Friend look like or portray itself to be? And
Yeah.
that's our own branding journey that we're doing ourselves. And it is difficult to do because we are obviously still full-time working on client work. Pretty much 80% of our weeks is just like doing stuff for other people, so we don't have a lot of time in our weeks to actually work on that and put out content that speaks to that. So that's the hard shift for us, is to like really push that message out.
because my understanding is like, for example, I've walked in with this shirt on today. Cam's seen it, goes, oh, who's Friend, whatever. They might just be like, their first impression is on the shirt. So it might be, oh, that's a shirt thing. But then the first impression they might see is the Call of Duty skin or something. So they still are asking what is it, or their first impression is still based on where they see it. But you're hoping to channel them maybe into your like home base, which might be a website, or it might be, like you've got your Instagram and things that you guys do where you really kind of give a big broad idea of the kind of stuff that you do, and it's a lot easier to see once you jump into your like home place, wherever that may be, landing page.
Yeah. I think it's difficult for people to understand as well, because we're kind of a model at the moment that not a lot of things are. We're two entities at the moment, where we're a store, as in like you can buy things off us. We sell digital assets, we sell fonts, we sell presets, we sell assets for designers to use. And then we're also an agency for people to come to, and we do work. And then we're also selling clothing and trying to sort of be a clothing line. So there's lots of things going on. And at one hand, I really like that. And it's like, it's fun for us to do, and it has lots of different arms. But at the same time, it's confusing for a lot of people to really get to grips on what it is, because not many people are used to like you being multiple things at one time. It's like, oh, how can you be that if you're this, or vice versa? And I think trying to strike that balance is really difficult.
It's kind of like what we do with the music.
Yeah. I mean, because you guys are a band and you're doing a podcast. I mean, straight away, that's two different things that not many people would sort of, they go hand in hand. But like, why can't they? Do you know what I mean? Like we're living in an age where you can do so many different things, and I like that. I think it's cool to have so many different things that we do.
And we were speaking about how that adds to our brand as a entity with Distorted Views and There's Something to Scream About. It's more just like we get, as Cam said, it was, maybe you can say it about how you were on stage as one presence, and then...
Yeah, I was saying that, that was off air, wasn't it? That was before.
Yeah.
We were talking before, and I was just explaining how when we're on stage, there's a viewership of how you see us on stage and how you perceive us, and that is... like I use the word God, but that's just like when you look at a celebrity, you're like, oh my, like if Eminem was rapping in front of me, I'm like, oh my God, that's like amazing.
A certain aura.
Yes, and then off stage, and on the podcast, they're just dudes talking, and they're talking about things they're passionate about, and they're sharing insight and knowledge that they've accumulated over years of being in the industry, and you're like, oh, they're just dudes, like they're just. Dudes and girls are just like passionate about stuff, and you see the human side.
That's right. And it's like the relatability that the audience sees within you. So doing the podcast allows us to have more things that the audience can relate to. So like, for example, I might talk about, went for a skate this morning, and then some listener is like, oh, I love skating. Oh, those guys are way cooler because they skate. And it's like, it seems lame, but that's exactly what people do. And, like when, we can maybe talk about the Call of Duty thing, like, you played Call of Duty as a kid. We both played lots.
I saw your throwing knife compilation.
Yeah. So,
yes,
to get to a point where you're designing for a Call of Duty skin and then coming sort of full circle, like you can imagine that just maybe talk a little bit about that and how that kind of.
Well, look, just quickly on that subject, as something that Cam and myself don't do very well is this kind of stuff. We don't offer that kind of level of authenticity with our content because it doesn't come naturally to us. We don't put the time aside to do that. So I think that's something that we try and work on, is like showing up on, even on simple things like Instagram stories. It's just us two chatting. Like we don't do it at all, really. And I think that it would help our audience see what Friend is. Then there's also the element where you peek behind the curtain a bit too much, and then some people can lose kind of a shine on a brand where you go,
loses the mystery a bit, and it's like
and that balance is difficult because like I feel like a lot of our work is quite like, you know, it's curated and it's polished and that's just what it is. And then if you peek behind the curtain and you realize that it's just two blokes.
Yeah, it loses that.
I don't know.
Does it? I don't know.
But but that's totally up to what people's opinions of it are. And like I think we're too scared to take that leap, but also just again doesn't come naturally to us. But no, the Call of Duty thing came. The New York Subliners are a esports team operating out of New York, obviously, and their creative director reached out to us it was a year ago actually. It was in August 2022. And he found our work on Behance, which is a online portfolio Adobe product. And he said he was just scrolling through the web trying to find a design look and feel that fitted the aesthetic that he was going to go for their look for the 2022-2023 season. So he wanted us to create all of they called it a toolkit. So everything that would go into their graphics for the next year. So what their posters would look like, what their announcements would look like, anything and everything, like stuff they would put on their merchandise and all this kind of stuff. So we did that. It was a 3-month sort of project with them and worked up until sort of November time. And then, it all launched for the season this year from January and all of the content rolled out. And it was really cool to see all of our graphics and all of our design work and all of our like toolkits being used to promote the New York Subliners and watching their esports events and having, you know, everything come up on the screens using the graphics that we created. So it was cool. And then later this year, Call of Duty released a customized skin for a weapon. So each team could come up with their own skin. And obviously they used the toolkit that we created for them to then promote, to create the skin, And then you could have that skin inside of the game. So that was a whole nother level of like immersion. Was I'm now in Call of Duty and I'm looking at a gun, because you can inspect your gun in Call of Duty, and it's got our it's got our font, like Cam hand designed a font, and we created all these graphics and elements that they use, and it's inside of Call of Duty now, and that was a really cool moment. It was like, wow, we've
full circle for sure.
Because we obviously used to play Call of Duty, like we still do all the time. And I now only rock my own gun.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Of course. You had to buy your own gun.
Yeah,
as
you have
well.
to buy the skin.
You probably had to buy the skin as well.
Yeah. No, Subliners gave us a little cheeky.
Oh, that would have been funny though. Like, I'm gonna pay for my own fucking skin.